For any Xbox or PlayStation codes or cheap games on any platform, use the referral link in the description. It'll take you to g2a.com. Use the promo code CHES over there and you'll get yourself 3% cash back. For all No Identity merchandise, hats, hoodies and t-shirts, follow the link in the description down below to the No Identity Fan Fibre website. Hey guys, welcome to the second upload of the day. This is going to be a budgets video for the Premier League. I did these last year. We'll be doing the Premier League, Serie A, La Liga and the Bundesliga. Let me know in the comment section which you'd like to see next and I will get that uploaded for you tomorrow. We'll be going with a career mode upload and then a budgets upload over the next couple of days, and then I've got some ultimate team content coming for you over the next few days as well to replace the budget content, and I do actually have, of course, a full career mode video for you each and every day. So we'll start with Arsenal. We'll be having a look at the budgets and, of course, the board expectations that are there on your screen as well. So as you can see, Arsenal have critical board expectations for domestic and continental success and brand exposure, although they're not too bothered about the financial and youth development side of things. Surprised that youth development is low for Arsenal, I have to be honest, but a sizable transfer budget of near as makes no difference, £80 million. Obviously, they brought in Lacazette in the summer already, so you've already got a couple of big money moves that have already been made, so you could make further additions to the squad here at Arsenal. 80 million is definitely enough to do something substantial with, so if Arsenal are the team that you decide to start your FIFA 18 life with, then you'll need to be pretty successful both domestically and in Europe. Moving on from Arsenal, we find ourselves at Bournemouth. Of course, it's done in alphabetical order. Low on everything other than very low on youth development. That is a surprise for me. I would have thought domestic success would have been quite important. Obviously, surviving in the Premier League is huge for a club of this size, both financially and just for future planning, but £36 million transfer budget is definitely enough to do something with. It's not a lot, especially with the way that today's market works, but of course Premier League budgets are inflated because of the massive TV deals that go through in the UK, so the budgets in this one will be a lot bigger than the budgets in the other three major leagues around Europe. But Bournemouth, you could do something with £36 million, but you might need to be successful in your first season to then raise further funds for season number 2, to be completely honest. The first of the promoted sides, Brighton, have very low expectations for domestic and continental success, medium on brand exposure and financial, and low on youth development. Medium financial will mean that you really need to do something with regards the overall club worth. You can see that on the right-hand side there at 382 million. £28 million-ish is, again, similar to Bournemouth, enough to do something with, and again, with a number of the smaller sides in the Premier League. It's going to be a case of having a solid first year to improve on and off the pitch to then really make further advances, shall we say, in season number 2. But Brighton doing okay since getting promoted into the Premier League, but could definitely do with a little bit of help from yourselves if you decided to do a Brighton career mode. After Brighton, of course, come Burnley. They stayed up last year and have 3 low domestic, continental and brand exposure expectations with a medium financial similar to Brighton and very low on the youth development side of things. Of course, Burnley have just signed my namesake, Chris Wood from Leeds, as their new striker, and he's actually started very well indeed for them. So if you do one as Burnley, please make sure that you play me quite a bit up top. I'd appreciate that. A £35.8 million transfer budget to start off with at Burnley. Again, similar to the previous couple, you want to stay up first season, although Burnley already stayed up for 1 year, so maybe you should be pushing for a lower mid-table spot rather than just aiming to avoid relegation all told. So Burnley, a side that definitely could, and actually have made a couple of very good signings in the transfer window just gone in real life, so they definitely could do some damage to some of the larger teams, as they have done actually a couple of times since they've been in the Premier League. But it's a tough one for Burnley because they are a small club in a small town, but you could definitely do something with Burnley, similar to the previous. But a lot of the smaller sides, because of the lack of transfer budget, are going to take 2 or 3 seasons to actually achieve something, unless, of course, you play on a lesser difficulty as per your ability, and you just destroy everybody anyway because you want to win the Premier League with Burnley Season 1. By all means, feel free to do that as well. Up next, it's the Chelsea boys, the side that I will be starting my first full career mode with on FIFA 18 once full release launches. We have domestic, continental and brand exposure all at critical, with financial and youth development set to low. I'm surprised youth development isn't actually set to very low, because Chelsea don't tend to be the sort of side to bring through the youth prospects. They have plenty of youth prospects, they just don't play them. They send them out on loan and then subsequently sell them, only for them to come back and be absolutely incredible at other clubs, a la Kevin De Bruyne and Romelu Lukaku. But never mind, we get a transfer budget of, I say only, but only £82 million, which is surprisingly low for a side of Chelsea's size. size and financial clout, especially considering a couple of the other budgets you'll see later in the video. But 82 million, definitely something to do something with. Of course, Alvaro Morata is in at the club. Zappacosta will be there as well. So some new signings have been made, but you will be without a couple of key players like Ruben Loftus-Cheek, who could do a squad role. Kurt Zouma, who I actually very much rate, and I was disappointed to see him go out on loan, to be completely honest. I may be recalling him at the beginning of the series, but we'll have to wait and see what happens. But Chelsea, with obviously a very strong starting 11, but don't have much squad depth, and that's widely thought in the footballing world. So you will have some work to do. I will have some work to do in building out that squad depth in my first season, but Chelsea there with an £82 million budget. Crystal Palace up next. Now, whilst it does say low domestic success, you might need to do a little bit better than that, judging by what's been happening in real life at the club. Frank de Boer lasted 4 Premier League games before getting the sack. £40 million is your transfer budget, which is sizable, but again, in the market that we're in right now, because of that Neymar deal, which has kind of boomed every price up by about 50%, you might struggle to bring in players in the first season, but you could probably bring in players of similar quality to what you've already got, but perhaps not improve the squad dramatically in season number 1. Medium financial expectations there as well, and very low on the youth development side of things. Palace could be a decent team to do a career mode with, actually, for a longer term series, so long as you don't mind just hearing that CPFC, CPFC, CPFC chant again and again and again and again whenever you play a home game. I struggle enough just playing at Selhurst Park once a season, let alone doing that 19 times with 19 home games. But if you want to play as Palace, there are your expectations. Everton, the side that I started with last year, actually, have a rather sizable budget for a club that doesn't necessarily tend to spend that much money. In the window just gone, they did spend quite a bit of money, although I feel that the majority of that was funded by the sale of Romelu Lukaku, but they don't tend to make massive signings, Everton, but you do have a £56 million budget there. High expectations, both domestically and brand exposure-wise as well. Medium continental success, of course, Everton in the Europa League this season, so you should be pushing, though, to finish top 4 in the first 2 years. Maybe not season 1, but definitely by season 2, which is what I did last year on FIFA 17 career mode. Medium youth development as well. Everton do have a reputation for bringing through the odd gem, a la Wayne Rooney, etc. So there's plenty to be done at Everton. They've got a very good squad, and I really, really like playing with Gylfi Sigurdsson on FIFA as well. And of course, you'd have him here at Everton now with better teammates around him. You will need to replace Romelu Lukaku, though. That will be probably the main port of call if you start a career mode series at Everton this year. Next on the agenda are, so far, the surprise package of the Premier League coming up from the Championship. Nobody expected Huddersfield to do as well as they have done at the beginning of the season. They kind of come unstuck against West Ham the other day, but they have still started the season very well, and their manager picked up Manager of the Month for August, so fair play to them. Obviously, as some of you may know, I have family in Huddersfield. Half of my family, my entire dad's side of the family, are from Huddersfield, so I have kind of an affiliation with the club of sorts, and I would like to see them do well in the Premier League and definitely stay up. So if you could do me a favour, if you start a series as Huddersfield Town, please keep them in the Premier League, keep my family happy, and try and win some stuff with them over the course of a long-term career mode. Thank you very much. Moving on to one of the surprises of this season, to the surprise of 2 seasons ago, Leicester City obviously won the Premier League, but didn't fare quite so well last season, and somehow managed to keep hold of Riyad Mahrez, though, in the transfer window just gone, so I'm sure you'd like to do the same at Leicester and build upon the squad. They have Kelechi now up top to partner Jamie Vardy as well, so you've plenty of pace at your disposal, and with close to £50 million, you could definitely do some damage with Leicester. Pushing for a European spot is genuinely a possibility with Leicester City in the first season, whether that be via a cup win or via a league finish. They could do some damage with that pace, and I'm sure a lot of you would very much like to do that damage with Jamie Vardy and Kelechi, so best of luck to you. Still in the L's, it's Liverpool up next, and they're a team that took a big W, actually, by managing to keep hold of Felipe Coutinho in the transfer window just gone. Critical domestic success and brand exposure, only high in continental terms, which is a surprise considering they're in the Champions League this season. I would have thought it would have been higher. Low financial and low youth development, and only a £66.8 million budget as well. I would have thought Liverpool would have had more money at their disposal than that, to be completely honest, but you've got a couple of new signings in at the club already, and with players like Sadio Mane performing out of their skin in real life and obviously already integrated into the team, You really could do a lot of stuff with Liverpool. You could genuinely challenge for the title in season number 1 and for a number of trophies over the course of a career. I probably won't do a Liverpool series myself, but I know Channy Sports is starting at Liverpool, so you should definitely check him out if you want to see a Liverpool series this year. Moving on from Liverpool, it's the first of 2 giant budgets. Of course, you've seen the Manchester United one in the career mode series that I'm doing currently from the Capture event, but Manchester City's is slightly smaller at £132 million. No surprise that they have a lot of money at their disposal. Critical domestic success, continental success and brand exposure, low youth development and rather understandably very low financial considering they have all the money in the world ever. But 132 million is enough to do whatever the hell you want with in this window, and obviously with plenty of players already at the club that are truly world class, you should be winning absolutely everything with Manchester City, and if you don't, I'm disappointed in you. And then moving on to the other side of Manchester, as we saw in the preview career that we're doing right now, £148.8 million in the transfer budget. Exactly the same board expectations as the blue half of Manchester. And again, if you're starting with Manchester United, you should be winning the Premier League in your first season, it has to be said, and at least challenging for a number of other trophies as well. So Manchester United with a great squad. Obviously, Romelu Lukaku is in this season, and Lindelöf in at centre-back, and a couple of other signings as well here and there. So strong squad at Manchester United, as we've seen from that preview career mode. So you really should be doing very well indeed if you decide to take on the red half of Manchester. And then we move from the northwest to the northeast. Domestic success is critical at Newcastle United. Brand exposure and financials set to high, youth development medium, and continental success set to low. Newcastle are a massive club in England, it has to be said, regardless of the fact they've been yo-yoing a little bit in recent times. They are still a ginormous side in English football, selling out St James's Park, or at least coming close to selling out St James's Park week in, week out, whether they be Premier League or Championship. And there's always been high expectations at the club, despite the fact they haven't won a trophy in a very, very long time. So if you'd like to take over a Newcastle, whilst you won't initially be expected to do too much in the first season, there will be pressure on you to succeed in the near future. So bear that in mind if you start at Newcastle, and only a £30 million budget as well isn't much to work with. So that will be a difficult one, I think, but worth the challenge. Up next comes Southampton. Did very well to keep hold of Virgil van Dijk in the transfer window just gone. Liverpool, of course, sniffing around him for pretty much the entire time that the transfer window was open. But a number of players that they managed to keep at the club, they didn't turn into a selling club this window, which is a surprise for Southampton over recent seasons. So they do have a decent squad already, and with £44.4 million, you could definitely do some damage in season number 1. Push for a top 8 finish, perhaps. It's definitely achievable at Southampton. High domestic and high youth development with medium continental brand exposure and financial expectations. Southampton, a side that have always been kind of that mid-table team that threatened to do something amazing but never actually follow through on it. So maybe you could actually push them and take them onto that next level. Another side that could really do with taking onto that next level are Tottenham Hotspur. Second in the Premier League and third in the Premier League recently, but still no Premier League title, despite having one of the best performing squads in the league. Not necessarily the highest rated squads in the league, but one of the best teams, best squad performances in the league over the past couple of years. Mauricio Pochettino doing a wonderful job at Spurs. Of course, you'll be playing your home games at Wembley this year as White Hart Lane is being redeveloped. So, quite an enticing prospect, actually. Domestic success is critical. High continental and brand exposure with medium financial and youth development. A number of players having upgrades this year, including Toby Alderweireld, Jan Vertonghen, Danny Rose, Dele Alli, Harry Kane, etc. So get involved at Tottenham Hotspur. It would be a very, very entertaining series to do, actually. I probably won't do it, but feel free to get cracking with a Spurs series playing at home at Wembley. And maybe you can win at Wembley more times than Tottenham have, because you might need to if you want to win anything this season. Stoke next on the agenda with a medium-sized transfer budget of £42.5 million. Obviously brought in Hesse in the summer as well, so you've already got a pretty decent player to add to the team before you've actually spent any money. Medium expectations, but domestically, brand exposure and on the financial side of things, very low on youth development and low continental. Stoke, another side that tend to finish mid-table in the Premier League, which for a side like Stoke is actually a dramatic achievement, to be completely honest. Tony Pulis has really set that club up for the future with regards to what he did at the club a few years ago. And Mark Hughes is trying to build upon that and does tend to play some more attractive football than Tony Pulis used to, shall we say. So try and build on that at Stoke if you decide to take them on. Improve upon what is already a decent squad. You'll have to replace Marko Arnautovic, of course, but perhaps Hesse is already your ready-made Arnautovic replacement, and you can look elsewhere. Kurt Zuma on loan at centre-back, of course, from Chelsea, is a player that I very much enjoy using, as I mentioned earlier, with regards to Chelsea. So feel free to take Stoke on and see if you can't get them into a European spot. Up next, Swansea City. Now, don't ask me how they stayed up in the Premier League last year, because I quite frankly couldn't tell you. They were atrocious for the entire season and managed to stay in the Premier League this season. You will definitely need to improve at Swansea City, especially considering they sold Fernando Llorente, their top goal scorer from last season, in the Premier League window just gone. Although they do have Wilfred Bonney back at the club, so you do have a physical player to go through the middle up top if that's the sort of player you'd like to go with. They do have a couple of decent players in there as well, but it is going to need a lot of work, the Swansea City squad, if you want to do anything with them in season number 1. I think an upper lower half finish would be respectable for a Swansea City career mode to start things off this year. Into the W's we go with Watford. Low domestic and continental success, medium brand exposure and financial and low youth development. £40 million at your disposal. They have already signed Andre Gray, of course, from Burnley, so you do have some pace up top to partner with the strength of Troy Deeney. Watford, an okay team, can occasionally pop up with the occasional fantastic performance and result, but I think, again, similar with a number of other sides, an upper, lower half finish, if that makes sense, would be respectable with Watford in season number 1, but there's no reason why you couldn't push on and go a little bit further in seasons 2 and 3. West Brom, the next side on the list, and, well, Tony Pulis is doing what Tony Pulis does with a side the size of West Brom, overachieving. I don't know how he does it, but he seems to do it everywhere he goes. So, whilst he doesn't necessarily have the reputation of playing attractive football, he does play effective football. You might want to adopt that style of play at West Brom yourselves, perhaps, or you might want to completely change, like Mark Hughes has done at Stoke, and play a more flowing style of football. It's completely up to you. With £36 million at your disposal, you've plenty of opportunity to improve the team. Medium domestic success, low continental and brand exposure, medium financial and low youth development. So there's work to be done at West Brom, but, I mean, they finished top half last year, didn't they? I think 10th? So to even be able to just match that, I think, would be a successful season for you in season number 1 with West Bromwich Albion. And then, who knows, the future, or the sky is the limit with the future at West Bromwich Albion. Maybe you can even do better than Tony Pulis. And then last, but by no means least on the list, is West Ham United. High domestic success, high brand exposure, medium continental, low financial and youth development. A side that did very well 2 seasons ago, didn't necessarily have the best of years last year, and to be fair, haven't had the best of starts to the season this year either. But with the strengthening they did in the transfer window IRL with Pablo Zabaleta, Joe Hart, Chicharito, etc., they've made some great signings, but they just haven't yet gelled on the pitch. So maybe you could be the one to gel them together and actually start putting in some pretty impressive performances. £55.5 million available to spend as well, which is enough. Enough indeed to do some damage in the transfer window to improve the squad yet further. So you should be pushing, I think, for a top half finish with West Ham, maybe even for a Europa League spot, and replicating what they did when Dimitri Payet had that incredible season 2 years ago. So best of luck if you decide to take on West Ham. Best of luck with whoever you decide to take on in your career modes this year. Feel free to drop the video a like if you enjoyed. Let me know in the comment section down below which sides you'll be starting with in career mode this year, whether they be Premier League or elsewhere. We'll have La Liga, Serie A and Bundesliga budget videos coming out over the next few days as well. Let me know which one you would like to see next in the comment section down below, and I will do them in that order if I possibly can. But for now, that's all for this video. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time.